Okay, so this is from a refresher from the very first day of our little private crocheting, learn how to crochet a granny square session. So hopefully this is useful. So we've used the Lincraft Grasslands yarn. It's Australian merino. It's really beautiful. After we used it, I realised it can be a little bit splitty if you're just starting, but it's very soft and it goes through your hook really nicely. So despite a few splits which we worked through, I think it's quite nice. It's 100% Australian merino, but it is dyed and wound in Italy. Anyway, so an 8 ply, and we're using a 5mm crochet hook. You need a stitch marker, and you'll need scissors eventually once you get through a whole ball, just to cut the ends, and a needle to sew in, but we haven't got into sewing in our ends yet. So let's just get started to get, as a refresher, right from the beginning for you. So that's our tail end, and obviously it continues to be the working yarn which is attached to our ball. And this one we're working from the outside of the ball. Sometimes you can start from the inside if it's easy pull, but a lot of yarns you work from the outside as it unravels. So if you've got a little basket or a saucepan or something you can drop it into at your feet, so it doesn't roll off the lounge, that's also a useful tip. All right, so you've got your tail end and your working yarn, and this is for right-handed, and I'll be talking in US terms. So to get started, you just need to get your yarn on the hook, and to do that, just bring your yarn round to make a loop, like so. Some people will wrap it around 1 or 2 fingers and bring the yarn over the top. So the working yarn is at the top to the right, and the tail end is to the left. And you're going to put your hook through the circle, and you're going to grab your yarn and just bring it through. Then you're going to grab your tail end and the working yarn together and just pull. And that just makes a little knot, and you can then tighten that up here. So the first thing we're going to do is the chain method to make a ring, because working with a magic circle can be a bit challenging as a beginner. So to do a chain, and you need to learn just to hold all these parts and to create a good tension. Hook on your right, the working yarn over your finger, and your tail hanging down to the bottom, and swivel action. So to grab your yarn, the hook comes to the left side of the yarn, and you'll often hear yarn over, which means you're yarning over the hook. The yarn comes over the hook, you put a bit of tension on it, and it grabs, it catches that under the hook there, and you pull it through that first loop that you've made. And we'll always have one loop on our hook as we chain. So we've done one chain, then we're going to do another. So the yarn comes over the hook, you grab the yarn, and then you're going to swivel so that the hook doesn't get caught on the yarn, and you can just bring it through that hole. So we're going to do that 6 times. So we're grabbing the yarn, swiveling it, and bringing that through. That's 3, 4, Now, one thing I haven't said yet is that take your yarn almost to the base of the hook here and then pull it through, only because this is the diameter of the hook which gives it the size that you're working with. If you do it here, it's not going to be exactly the right size. So we have, and you can see these little loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we always count the loops that are off the hook, not the one on our hook. So we're going to make one more, which is 6. You are then going to come back onto the work, back to the left with your one hook, loop on your hook, and come into the very first chain that you made next to your knot. And you're going to put the hook through that loop, and you're going to swivel and grab your yarn and bring that through. And now you've got 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to swivel and just pull that yarn through. So we've got the tail here hanging down, which you will just need to get used to keeping it out of the way, and your working yarn here, and we can see that we've made a little circle. Now, when you're first starting, your tension is a bit all over the place, so just pull that apart so you can see that circle, because we're going to be working into that space. So now that we've joined, we're going to chain 3. So again, it's the same as how we started, by bringing the yarn over the hook and swiveling so we can catch that and bring that through that loop. Do that again, yarn over, pull that through, yarn over and pull that through. Now we're going to do our first stitch. Now, because when you're first starting, it's very hard to see that stitch in the chain, we're going to disregard and not count that as a stitch. So to do a double crochet, you yarn over, and now what you're going to do is go into the hole, put your hook through the hole, and you've got to grab the yarn and pull it through. Now it looks a bit funky here, but just means you've got to turn it so you can actually see the 3 loops, because that chain 3 can look a bit confusing. So what you want your work to look like is 3 chains on your hook. So the first one twists a little bit, the second one looks like it's on a bit of a diagonal, and the one that you just pull through is there. So you need to make sure that you can identify those first 3. So what you're going to do is, with those 3 loops on your hook, is take your yarn over and grab with the hook. You're going to you need to swivel it so the hook's not going to get caught on these loops. You're going to bring that under 2 loops and bring that up. Now you've got 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and bring that through. So we're going to do another 2 of those. So yarn over, you've got to go into the hole, and I find that if I'm holding the yarn tail and this circle like this, I can actually see where I'm going, and I'm not going to accidentally go into one of the chains that we did. So we're yarning over, going into the circle, grabbing our yarn, pulling it up. We have 3 chains and a hook. Now you need to pull up this last piece of yarn so it's not too tight down there. Make sure that you're pulling it up, you've got a bit of looseness so that you can identify those 3 stitches on your hook. Yarn over, swivel that so we can bring that through the center of those 2 loops there. 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and bring that through. Sorry about the outside noise. And because we're not counting that chain 3, just for the purposes of this very, very beginner tutorial, we're going to yarn over, go into the hole, grab your yarn, pull up a loop. Again, you might just need to wiggle it a little bit, holding onto your working side here, just so that helps control the tension. And you can see we have 3 loops on our hook, and you can see that this one is very close to your work. This one's slightly on an angle. This one you've had to make longer. So grab your yarn, bring it through 2 loops, yarn over and bring it through 2 loops. All right, so that is how we get started. And I know it looks a bit messy and you think, how on earth is that going to make anything? But it will. So what we're going to do now is we need to create a space which will become our first corner. So what you need to do is we're going to make 2 chains, which is simply grabbing your yarn and bringing it through the loop on your hook. Grab the yarn and bring it through the loop on your hook. So the anatomy of a piece of yarn on your hook, a stitch, obviously it goes all the way through, and you're bringing the hook through the middle of that hole. So we have 2 chains and they look like little V's. A stitch will look like little V's. So we've done the chain up 3. So we started with 6. You can do less or more, but for the purposes of this, we've done 6 chains and joined it. We've done 3 more chains, 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and now we're going to repeat this 3 more times. So this pattern will be yarn over into the hole, bring up a loop. Sorry, a bit of fuzz on that. 1, 2, 3. Make sure that it's sort of at the base, but you can delineate between each of those stitches. You're going to yarn over, you're going to pull through 2 and lift up, grab your yarn, pull through 2 stitches, and that's our first double crochet of this cluster that we're doing. So this pattern with a granny square is going to be 3 double crochets. That's all you need to know, plus you chain 2. So we're going to do another one, yarn over, go into the space, grab your hook and your yarn, pull it through. Make sure that you've got these 3 stitches on your hook. Pull through 2, pull through 2. Yarn over into the hole, pull up a stitch. I don't know what that noisy car is doing outside. Sorry about that, going up and down the road. 3 stitches on your hook. So we're going to grab, yarn over, grab that, we're going to twist it, bring it through 2 and bring it through 2. So you can tell the number of stitches that we've done. Excuse me. Because the double crochet, it creates these posts, what they're called posts. So that's the stitch there. It's a post and a post and a post. So you can count that way, or you can look at the top, and we don't count this as a stitch on our hook, but we can see this 1V here. That's the top of 1 double crochet. the V there, that's the second double crochet, and that's the third double crochet. So we've done the 3, so the pattern is 3 double crochets and chain 2. Now I've still got that yet daggy bit of tail hanging there, but I like keeping that there because it tells me that that's the back, and I'm always going to be working on the opposite side of where that tail's hanging in case you accidentally twist it. All right, so 1 cluster of 3 double crochets, chain 2, the second cluster of double crochets, chain 2, and then we're going to do another cluster. I'm just going to speed this up a little bit since you should be getting a little bit of an idea about what you're doing now. Again, we've done 1, 2, 3, or have a look. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and we're going to do, so we've got 1, 2, 3, and you can see how the shape is coming along now. 1 double crochet, a second double crochet. I just want to point out while we're doing this, see how close my yarn to the ball is getting. Now that's going to cause this to be really tight, so you just need to keep unraveling it a little bit, or as I said, put it in a pot or something on the ground so it's going to unravel nicely, so you're not going to get too tight. So 1, 2, and our last one. Okay, so we're going to chain 2, and we're going to join now, because the pattern is to get going is to make a square, so we need 4 corners. So we have 1 corner, 2 corners, 3 corners, and now we need to make the 4th one, because we'll be working into these corners as we progress. So this can be one of the trickiest part, is where to identify where you're going to join. So a stitch marker can become your best friend. Now if you don't have a stitch marker, you use a bobby pin or something else, but I find these ones that close together are the best, because there's less likely that they're going to fall off your work. So if we look at our stitches, we can see that we have, that was the chain 3, but we don't want to count that, and then we've got 1, 2, 3 posts, and above that first post is a V, and that's where I should have told you to put that right at the beginning, but that's where we're going to put our hook now. All right, so if you've got your stitch marker under that V, you take it out, 1, 2, 3, that's the chain 3, but you can see that would be really awkward. It's really hard to see. It's right on the side. So we go to the top of the chain 3, and we can see that there's this V, and you can get your hook underneath that V, directly underneath that V, and you're going to grab your yarn, and we're going to make what's called a slip stitch, which is just to join. So it's just grabbing the yarn, pulling it under the loops of that V, and you have 2 loops on your hook, and then you're just going to swivel and bring that through the end of the last stitch on the hook, and that has joined our work. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. So the first couple of rounds are the most difficult, but it's setting you up for the granny square so you can continue. Now again, this is very basic and not everyone will add in this extra chain 3, but I just think for the ease of learning, it just helps not having to find that stitch and get your stitches out of whack. So what we're going to do is chain 3, and that takes us to the height for the next row. That's the purpose of doing chains, is to go up. And usually with a double crochet, you can either chain 2 or chain 3. And I've just decided to chain 3 for the purposes of this particular tutorial. Now what we're going to do is work backwards into that last space that we made, and we're going to put 3 double crochets. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go, just tilt your hook back a bit, go through that hole and pull up your loop. So now you've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. Now we're going to go back into that space, which is just behind our stitches to the right, and go in, bring up that loop. I'm getting a bit tight here, so I'm just going to unravel a bit. Need some more tension so I can wiggle the height of that. And again, you've done that chain 3, so it sort of gets in the way. So just have a look and make sure you've got 1, 2, 3 all in a row. Yarn over, swivel, bring that through 2 loops, yarn over, bring that through 2, and we're going to do that one more time. Yarn over, put your hook in the hole, bring it up, make sure we have these 3 stitches that we can see, 3 loops on the hook, bring through 2 and bring through 2. Now this is a good time to put your stitch marker in, so we can see that's the stitch we just did. Don't count this one that's on the hook, the V there, 2 and 3. And in this one here, you will put your stitch marker. And you see that clearly. As opposed to trying to find a very tight stitch down the side over here. All right, so that's going to be the beginning of a corner, and we're going to finish that corner on our way back around. So all we're going to do now is jump to this next space that we created with the chain 2, and we're going to go into the space. So the beauty of a granny square is for this particular granny square, you don't have to worry about going into stitches. We're going to be working around these stitches and going into the hole. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go into the hole, bring up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, grab your yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the hole, pull up a loop, bring through 2. Now I'm just going to try and make an error, because this is what happens if it's splitty and I haven't caught the whole piece of yarn and I've gone through the middle of it. So see how it can split a little bit? So that's why holding the tension is important. So we've done 1. Make sure we get right underneath through those loops, and 2, and 1 more. So now we're going to create our first corner for this round. So again, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and you can move your last stitch over that a little bit so you've got some room to work into that. I'm going to yarn over, we're going to go into that space, grab our yarn with our hook and bring it up, have a look, we have 1, 2, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull that through 2, yarn over, pull through that 2, and we need to do 2 more because everything is in sets of 3. All our stitches are groups of 3, or called a cluster. All right, so that will become the corner, and it'll be the corner for the next round. So we're going to go onto this side of our work now and make another corner. So we're going to go directly into that space. We're going to yarn over, we're going to go into that hole, pull up a loop, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the space, come up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the space, pull up your loop, 3 loops now on my hook, grab that, rotate it. So we've done our first lot of 3 for the corner. So to finish the corner we need to chain 2. This is all setting up for the next round, for corners for the next round, and we need to do 3 more double crochets into that space. So remember, you can move this a little bit just so you've got a bit of room to work in. Yarn over, go into the hole, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring through 2, bring through 2, yarn over into that hole, bring up, you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, bring through 2, bring through 2, and 1 more, yarn over into the hole, bring up, 1, 2, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, bring that yarn through 2 loops, grab your yarn, bring that through 2. So you can see that this is starting to take a bit of shape now. That's the one we started with. There's a complete corner. We've got another corner, and we need 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need to do our 3rd corner. So we're going to work straight into that space. So yarn over into that hole, grab your yarn, bring it up, 3 loops on the hook, grab your yarn, so yarn over, bring that through 2, bring that through 2, yarn over into the hole, grab your yarn, bring it up, yarn over, bring through 2, and yarn over and bring through the 2 loops. So that's 2, and I'll do 1 more. So there's the first part of the corner, chain 2, yarn over, go into the hole, bring through 2 loops, bring through 2 loops, yarn over into the, put your hook through the hole, you're going to grab your yarn, swivel it, bring it through, grab your yarn, bring that through 2 loops, grab your yarn, so the yarn's coming over the hook so you can grab it, and we need 1 more. So there we have another corner. Now because we know that's our beginning, because we put a stitch marker there, so that's a great guide, and we know that a corner needs 2 sets of clusters and a chain 2 in it to make a corner, and we've done half of it, but we need to finish the other half. So we're going to yarn over, go into that hole, grab our yarn, bring it up so that we have 3 loops in our hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the hole, grab your yarn with the hook, rotate it. I know that always looks funny because you've got a really tight stitch next to there, a diagonal and a longer one. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 2 double crochets, and we've got 1 more to finish that cluster. Yarn over, go into the hole, grab your yarn and bring it up. So we have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we always know that the first part of the corner is 3 double crochets, and we know that we have to do 2 chains, and we've already made the second part of our corner. We know that's the beginning, and we know this is the stitch that we're going to go into. So we're not going to get confused with anything down the side here, which would be very easy to do. So as long as you can identify where that is, if you've got enough room, you can leave your stitch marker there and put your hook through and then take it out. And if you find that too hard, just sort of make sure that you can eyeball that and know that that's the one that you're going to do. So to join, you're just going to go under the 2 loops of that V. Make sure you've got 2 loops there. And you're going to grab your yarn with the hook, rotate it, bring the yarn through under those 2 loops of that V. I've caught something, so I'm going to have to go back. Done something funny. I'm going to go through the V there. I'm going to pull that through, and then I'm going to pull it through the yarn on my hook. So there we have completed our second round. Now don't worry too much about that big hole in the middle. At the end, or once we've got a fair way through, you can pull that and it will close it up, and then we will sew that in to secure it so that your work doesn't unravel. But because we did the chain 6 and join, there's less chance of that unraveling as we're working. All right, so we have got 1, 2, 3, 4 corners, and in between those 2 lots of corners here, there's a spare space now. And as we keep doing rounds, we will create more of these spaces, and so the next round we will end up with 2 spaces. So then that's how your work grows. But before we get there, we need to start another row. And I'm just going to continue with this method, which will be different to a lot of other crochet tutorials, but it's just how we started on day 1. So 1, 2, 3 chains. We're now going back into that space to the right of that stitch. We're going to yarn over. We're going to go into that space. We're going to drop a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over. We're going to pull through 2 loops. We're going to yarn over and pull through those next 2 loops. We're going to do 2 more of those into this hole. So I know it's sort of backwards. Just turn your work a little bit. Yarn over, pull through a loop. We're going to yarn over. We're going to pull through 2 loops there. We're going to yarn over and pull through that yarn through 2 loops. And we need 1 more. So this is the beginning of our next round, and this is half a corner. So let's go back 1, 2, 3. So that will be the first double crochet we did, and we're going to put in a stitch marker. So if you need to stop your work and do things like that, just pull up an extra length, and if you've got a couple of stitch markers, which I recommend, if you're worried put in another stitch marker, and you should do this at the end of the day when you've stopped or you need a break. Just put in a stitch marker there, so if it happens to get pulled all the way through, it's not going to all unravel. All right, so we've done the first part of our corner here. Now we're just going to go straight into the next spare space, which is here, and that's lining up above this cluster that we did down there. So we're always going to be going into these spaces in between clusters. Yarn over, go into the hole, pull up through the hole, 1, 2, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and repeat that 2 more times. I'll just speed up a little bit, or you can fast forward or slow down. On your YouTube, there's a button that should say speed. Okay, so we started our corner, we've gone into a space, and now we're going to come to a corner. And we know it's a corner because we've got 2 lots of clusters coming out of the one hole, whereas these single ones, there's 1 cluster coming out of the hole. So this is why we've created the corners in the first 2 rows, and the corners will always be the corners. So if you don't have corners into a previous corner, you've done something wrong. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go straight into that hole, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to do another 2 more of those double crochets. So I have 1, 2, 3. I'll move that slightly. Now we're going to complete that corner with a chain 2 and go straight back in the same hole and do these 3 double crochets. Bring through 2, bring through 2. So now that we've done that corner above the other corner, we have this space above a 1 cluster of 3 stitches. So, oops, sorry, my yarn's getting in the way. So we're going to do 1 group of 3 into that single space now. 1, 2, look, I've got a knot. That's where you will find those sometimes, where in your ball of yarn where they've had to join it, but I'm just going to ignore that and crochet over it. Unless it's really big, you can just crochet over them, and they usually just end up in your work, so that's fine. You can see it's sort of a little bit noticeable, but not too bad. Okay, so we've done 1 set of 3 into that space, and here we've got another corner because we've got 2 lots of 3 coming out of the 1 space, and there's our chain 2. So we're going to make another corner. Yarn over, go into that space, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, move that down a little bit so I've got a bit of room to work into, chain 2, and then do 1, 2, 3. All right, so now we've got another corner, and you can see that there's a space over just 1 set of 3, so I know that I'm going to do another set of 3 here. Yarn over into that hole, bring it up, 1, 2, I've got a bit of fluff on that, and 3. So we know we're coming to a corner because there's 2 lots of clusters coming out of the one space. There's our chain 2 that we did to create our corner, and we're going to make another corner. Yarn over, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, yarn over, go into the hole, bring your yarn up through that hole, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, bring through 2. And we need 2 more double crochets to finish off that 3 double crochet cluster. Great. Starting to look more like a square. Right, we have a couple of spaces left. We can see that there's a space here and a space here. Lucky we have our stitch marker, because you know that's where we're going to finish our corner, rather than just doing 1, 1 and then not doing a chain 2. We're going to do one lot of clusters into this space, which is above one set of clusters. Yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over the hook into the space, grab your yarn, bring it up, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over into the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 and pull through 2. So we're coming around, and we know that we're always going to have 4 corners. Doesn't matter how big our blanket gets, we're going to have 4 corners. So we know that there's a complete corner there, 1, 2, 3, and we've got to finish this corner that we started in the chain 2 space. So we're going to go straight into that, yarn over, do our first double crochet, yarn over into the hole, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over into the hole, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So to complete a corner, we have a cluster of 3, then we need to chain 2, and not to get confused with any of these, because we know we've got our stitch marker in there, we're going to slip stitch to join. So the hook goes under both loops of that V, grab our yarn, and we're just going to pull it through there, and then we're going to continue and pull it through that loop there. So now we have completed our 3rd round. So to get started, we do what we did to get started in the previous round. We are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, going slightly backwards to do our first double crochet, our second double crochet, and our 3rd double crochet. And we're going to put our stitch marker in the first double crochet, the top of that. So I have 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to ignore the mess that is this chain 3 here, so I don't get confused. And we are going to continue just like that for as much as you want, until your ball of yarn runs out. If you get a big ball of yarn from Spotlight or Lincraft or anywhere online that is those yarn cakes, you'll have a couple of you know, quite a few hundred meters, and you know, that way you can just keep going without changing any colors. But I've just done another little tutorial about how to change your color, or if you run out of that first spool, how you're going to start with a new ball of yarn into your project. So keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, just keep going. So we now have 2 spaces to crochet into over the 2 double crochets from this 2 lots of clusters from the row before. So we'll do a cluster here, a cluster here, and then keep your eye out. This is the corner, because you can see all these stitches. There's 6 stitches into the one space as opposed to 3 stitches. And if you need to, get more stitch markers, and as you go, put a stitch marker into your corner. If you're really having trouble seeing it, put a stitch marker into every corner so that you know that's where you're going to do your next corner. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. So keep an eye out for the next couple of tutorials to continue with that pattern. All right, happy crocheting as always, and I'll see you soon.